Hi, Steve. Hi, Jared. Can you see us?
Yes, I can.
We're streaming and recording. And Kevin was just here and then he left, but I'm sure he's coming back.
Okay.
And Steve Coper, our community development director, may attend this via WebEx. He's home with a sick child tonight, so but I don't know if he'll be. He said he'll try to get on.
Okay.
But I was just talking to Cherie, and she used to work for the city of Salem as the assistant director
For urban renewal and economic development.
for urban renewal and economic development. And this is
Welcome.
her chair.
That's great. Sorry I'm not there today in person. My kids are home from school today. And so rather than drag them into the meeting so Lance can babysit them, I decided not to do that. So
I do love kids.
I know you do. I can tell. I just know this to be true.
Kevin, our
I do know. He was sitting out there being in.
oh, is it shut?
Yeah.
Is the door shut?
He had the key, he had a magic key.
Wait a second, you were outside?
Yes. No, well, in the lobby.
Oh,
Yeah.
you unclose it?
He let us in.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Yeah, so
Let's see.
it's a lot to run one business, so two businesses, like, you know. It's just like
No,
whatever.
Steve.
We just have some-
Steve is home with a sick child. I think he will come pop in. He said he would try and pop in on WebEx.
Happy New Year.
We are missing, see. Good. Oh, we're missing Russell. But he said he would attend.
Okay.
He accepted the WebEx. And Shannon will not. Shannon Eilis.
Yes.
Shannon Knight here. So Shannon Eilis will not be here. So I guess we're just waiting for Russell.
We could start. We have a quorum, right?
So we have a quorum.
Okay, go ahead.
Are you gonna text him or should he want me to text him?
Shannon, do you mind? If you don't mind, I can text him too. Russell's notoriously 4.5 minutes late. Once again, sorry I'm not there today. I'm the only one on video, I presume?
Yeah.
Okay. But let's call the meeting to order. And it's an exciting day. It's a new year. We've got new members. 601, January 5th, we'll officially roll. And as any chair knows, we have to start with roll call, right, Shannon? Everybody knows this. So
Wait, what?
Say again.
Roll call.
Roll call, yeah. So please.
Kevin Boddington, City Council.
Shannon Knight? Member? Christy Lawn, Secretary?
Lynn Schroeder, staff liaison.
Jared Dean, Chair. Thank you for being here. I'd love to hear, we have a quorum, and I'd love to hear a little bit from our new members today. It's a big deal.
We need to reelect people, don't we?
Well, yeah, so a couple things, Jared. The second, you talked about electing a new member, electing chair, but amending the agenda
Yes.
to include election of chair.
Correct. I would like to amend the agenda to include the election for chair and vice chair.
Okay. Do you have the agenda in front of you?
I do.
Okay,
I'd like
what-
to add that item to the agenda after we introduce our new members, before we approve the minutes.
Okay. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Any opposed? Okay.
Russell said he's lobbying.
Lance, would you like to kick us off? I know we've all met you already. Well, and sorry, was it Cherie or Sherry? Cherie?
It's Sheree.
Cherie, got it.
Would you like me to say?
Um,
Lance Weinert, I run real estate brokerage down in historic Willamette. For about 10 years, and really have taken hold of West Linn and looking forward to helping out. So, in a nutshell.
Thanks, Lance.
Sheree Wargren again, commercial lending background and affordable housing, using low-income housing tax credit, background. And then I have worked at the city of Salem for 23 years, citywide parking and, downtown parking, reported to me along with, revitalization of downtown, created grants and loan programs, done more than 300 grants for property owners and businesses, for tenant improvements and to get them. We had over 100,000 square feet in vacancy when I was hired there. And so, and a lot of large buildings. And so we basically added housing and reduced that square footage. And then I was economic development and urban renewal assistant director.
Great background.
Yeah, we were gonna take time to review applications before making appointments, but yours stood out so much, we decided it's not really important.
Well, it's great to have you on the team, Cherie. One of the things we'll connect on toward the end of the meeting is we put together a SWOT analysis. Well, we discussed our individual strengths and weaknesses last meeting, and I compiled that data into a SWOT analysis that I'll be putting for everyone's review. And we'll it's not a final document; it's a first copy or first draft. And if we'll have a little bit of time at the end of the meeting, and I'd love to hear a little bit more about that from you, and so we can amend the analysis to include your strengths and weaknesses in it as we finalize it.
Everybody and be a part of this team and to work with council and staff.
And Christy, we have meeting or minutes. Thank you for preparing those
Absolutely.
for 3 months. Has anybody not had an opportunity to review the minutes?
I emailed one typo.
Oh, over. So was it typo my name on the October minutes?
No, the typo was it, one of the things said SWAT analysis. It says SWAT.
I missed that one.
So there was a typo on the October. I was listed as attending.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, I know I can't weigh in on these because I wasn't here, so I don't know if they're correct, but I did see my name.
Oh, that is. So you,
Only that one.
okay. Okay.
So do we want to approve those with those amendments?
Yes, let's approve if there are no other issues with the minutes, let's approve those with those amendments.
All in favor? Any
Aye.
opposed? Okay, moving on to election.
Great. So for 2026,
Yeah.
we need a chair and a vice chair. I've been the chairperson for this committee for, I think, 5 months. I was voted in because my audio wasn't working the day they needed it, and I was the one that was selected. And I never really, we didn't really. Russell's kind of the vice chair, but informally, but I don't think that's a role that he's interested in, and so I am willing and able and interested in continuing chairperson duties for 2026.
Okay,
And
I nominate Jared to be chair.
Second.
All in favor? Any opposed? Okay. So Jared continues to be chair, and do we have any nominations for vice chair?
We could do the same thing and nominate Shannon.
Well,
I second the nomination.
Is anybody interested? I mean, vice chair, I think a clarification on a role would be good at this moment too for vice chair, because I don't know what
they fill in for you if you can't be here.
That's it, right? That's the only thing that they do. If I can't be here, you run the meeting.
Yeah.
And I
think sometimes they run the agenda through both people just to see if they have any comments on it, but
yeah,
that's about it.
Okay. Does anybody have any interest, 1% of interest or more, in becoming vice chair for the one meeting perhaps that I won't be able to attend this year? I don't think I will miss one, but if I did.
And simultaneously, do you want to remain secretary?
I would rather be secretary.
Okay, great. So now that we have that worked out.
I can do it if no one else will do it, but Shannon did.
Okay. I nominate Shannon Knight to be vice chair.
Yeah, I don't know if that's really, he's not here in the meeting, so.
We've done it before. No, it's
Yeah.
fine. I could do it. It's fine.
Second.
All in favor of Shannon Knight being the vice chair? Oh. I see 3, 4.
Spot.
I see 4 people. Okay, the motion carries. The nomination carries. All right, moving on.
Thank you, Lynn. Do we need to vote for Christy? Do we need to vote for secretary?
Yeah.
I'm happy to continue.
Okay.
And nominate Christy for secretary.
I second. All in favor?
All in favor? I think we have unanimous on that too. All right.
I
Great.
Okay. Moving on to the next agenda item, review of the EDC purpose. Is that where we're at, Russ? I mean, Russell, Jared. Russell's right there, Jared.
Yeah, that is where we're at. And any question, Cherie and Lance, have you had an opportunity to review the purpose, the mission statement, and the work plan for the EDC on the website? Have you been able to see those, view those, and read those?
Yes.
Okay.
I was going to go over that if you can give me some time to do that, Chair.
I think so. Go ahead, please.
Well, I want to let you know that I'm the new staff liaison, but I have I liaise for the PC and the Historic Review Board. The Economic Development Committee advises the City Council on implementation and updates to the Westland Economic Development Plan, and in accordance with the comprehensive plan. So we have comprehensive plan goals for economic development. We have 3 goals. One goal is to encourage the recruitment, retention, and expansion and economic viability of the city of Westland. And under those, we have 10 policies. And I'll call out policy to work with the Chamber of Commerce and the business community and other agencies to meet the economic needs of Westland. And that's why we have Rebecca Hollenberg as a adjunct member of the committee. Second goal is to support tourism and tourism-related business and services. And there's a policy to enhance recreation-based tourism. And this committee is focused on that. And then the third goal is promote the efficient use of commercial and industrial land. And this is where Sheree was probably would be very helpful. We want to preserve and maintain the land to ensure a mix of uses and jobs. And ensure that the city has adequate public facilities. So in 2015, we did an economic opportunities analysis. That was a long time ago, but we haven't had a lot of change in our land. So some of the conclusions were that the service sector is is expected to receive the most new jobs and grow the fastest in the next 20 years. So we're 10 years after that. So and the largest employers, the top 5 employers are the Westland Paper Company, the City of West Linn, the Westland High School, the Roseland Care Center, and Safeway stores. And a special note, the paper mill closed. One of our other large employers closed last year. So that was one of our longest historic businesses. So that was kind of sad. And another interesting thing to note is that 40% of our licensed business are home-based businesses. So with those goals, the city council last summer developed a work plan for the committee for 2025 through 2027. And those include the city council would like the EDC to work on a vision statement for your committee. Secondarily, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threat, the SWOT analysis, which Jared is going to talk about today. They want the EDC to consult with the Chamber of Commerce and Willamette Main Street to participate in research to determine successful programs that will support existing businesses and bring new businesses to Westland. And then also to provide recommendations on the Westland Waterfront Project and Vision 43, which are our 2 big vision planning for the city. The Waterfront Project, the vision plan has been completed, and we are currently preparing a grant from that we're going to submit to Metro that will help us prepare the development code, the proposed development code for the waterfront area. This is a pretty large grant. We're going to be asking for about $600,000 to do an economic opportunities analysis, an economic strategy, the development code. And right now we're slated to probably apply for the grant in March, but that may slide. And it's a rolling grant. So we could do it, then the next date would be June, but sometime this summer, we would apply for the grant. Then we would take, about 3 months to receive the grant if we got it. And then we would have to, go out for bid for a consultant to do most of the work. So the EDC probably, there's discussion right now to have the EDC be the working group for that whole work effort, but that would probably be something in 2027. And then last, the city council, the work plan calls for community engagement and belonging. That's more of a lens through which all your work should be viewed. We want to ensure community involvement and belonging, and targeting, including being inclusive of previously underrepresented community members. So that's the background. Does anybody have any questions?
So in that grant, you're asking for an EOA, but I'm assuming the citywide EOA.
No.
Just
No.
for the or for the waterfront.
It's not really an EOA, more of an economic strategy. for the waterfront. And then the idea is to, after we move forward with the grant for the waterfront, we would then come back and do an EOA after Vision 43 and the waterfront are moving forward. Okay?
Oh.
Oh, yeah, question.
Have you ever, I don't know, maybe staff belongs to Urban ULI,
ULL? I don't know what that is.
Urban Land Institute, because you can ask them to come in, they'll put together a team of architects and developers, and usually it's from across the United States. They'll bring a team in, you give them kind of what the scope is that you would like them to do. It's a different type of strategy where they take what they've seen and done in other places, and I don't think it's as expensive. And there's a Portland group, and we used them, and it was free. Actually, it was Lake Oswego that used them on that site that they had purchased on cruise to do their big community recreation thing, and they ended up not moving forward with that. But there's that company that bought that land from them. It just food for thought. I mean, we used them multiple times at the city, and it was wonderful having those architects and those different individuals with the industry knowledge come in and take a look at different areas that we had and tell us. And they would meet with the businesses in the area. They would meet with property owners in the area. It's just a different kind of way to get a focus on an area that you want to redevelop. Again, it's cheaper, but I'll leave phone call.
Yeah.
Bring that call.
Yes. All right. Thank you for that. Okay, back to you, Jared.
Thanks, Lynn. So last time we met, we talked about, we know our work, we know our vision, we know what our work plan is. Let's look at some of the hot topics that are on the city council's agenda for 2026, and let's see if any or what falls under kind of our scope of what we're good at, what we could be tackling, what we could be working on. It would be great to prioritize and put our brains together to work on something important to the city council, execute some things, and perhaps get some things done. Because Cherie and Lance, that's something that this group has had over the last few years, has felt like there just wasn't a lot of direction and there wasn't a lot of guidance, and so not a lot was accomplished, and there's been a lot of turnover on the committee. And so if we could sink our teeth into something, we could that would be fun, and could actually be impactful. And so Shannon had recommended that we have Kevin run through again the list of hot topics that on the city council's agenda, and then we could spend some time together today talking through those and as a group and seeing if anything strikes a chord for us for 2026. Kevin, are you still down for that?
You set your goal setting yet?
We have not even set a date for the goal,
Exactly.
but I
Do
can
we
pretty
know when-
easily predict what most of them would be. I don't know why we didn't decide to do that right off the bat this year like we did last year. Really sure.
And one other thing before you go, Kevin, is Shannon, I like the idea of having a spreadsheet where we can put thoughts into it, as far and kind of keep track on some of the items that we're working on. This would be a good time to create a spreadsheet where the different items that are in our purview are located, and we can update that spreadsheet and share that each month or continuously as needed. And so, does anybody feel like they're a good person to take notes and track some of these items that we discuss? Any winners there?
Yeah, Christy will.
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks, Christy. All right, Kevin, the floor is yours.
Oh, boy. Trying to grab last year's real quick.
And I still have the list I still have the list of things you mentioned last meeting too, if that's helpful for you at all.
That's what I've got here.
Okay.
So on that list were transportation, safety and funding, explore feasibility of indoor rec center, clarify advisory group work programs, on drinking water system capital needs, waterfront vision, 43 vision project, environmental protection and sustainable city operations, DEIB initiatives, and new operations facility. So those goals were 25 to 27. But I think obviously we're going to revisit them at some point this month. Some of them we got through, and some of them I think naturally became less of a priority. I think one of the biggest things we're going to be getting into this year is figuring out the city's financial picture. Since I kind of got into last time, we're reaching the point where the actual system is no longer sustainable for us. We're going to have to figure something out because financially we won't be able to keep providing services at the current rate or to the current level. So I don't think anyone wants to see that, but we're going to be looking at solutions for that and kind of making sure we have a sustainable plan for keeping the city operation financially long term. One of the things we took care of before adjourning for the year last year was we authorized a full faith and credit obligation for the what's it called, the operations complex, the public works facility. It is both the most expensive thing the city of West Linn has ever decided to do, and the most important thing on our plate right now. The old one is something like 70, 80 years old, and if you've ever seen it or been there, it's astonishing that the city actually still functions, because that is what's keeping it going. It is literally a series of rusty corrugated steel shelters. So this is super important to keep the city actually running going forward. It's not something that we can put off any longer. And unfortunately, the only site available for it was right on Solomo, below Barrington Heights.
Very good site. You paid a good price for that.
Yeah, there's a lot of history there. Unfortunately, there is absolutely nowhere else to put it. And the engineering of that did add a little bit of cost to it, but there wasn't exactly an alternative. So that is very much on our plate at the beginning of the year. I'm not sure what the timeline for Vision 43 is going to be now, or if you know anything about how that
Yeah,
works.
so Vision 43 is, for new members, is a vision plan for the Highway 43 corridor to create some mixed-use zoning, to rezone and create some mixed-use zoning and creates economic vitality in the area. We are preparing a vision plan and some draft mixed-use code. We're having an open house begin at the end of January and a second one in February. And then after we have these open houses, we will move into the legislative adopted phase of the draft code. As a partnership, a sister project to the Vision 43 is an urban renewal a potential urban renewal district for the vision for the Highway 43 corridor. And that is something that, we have a consultant doing a feasibility study right now.
So, yeah, we're going to still prioritize that at the rate it can be completed at the new timeline. The waterfront plan was adopted November. A lot of the next steps are coming together now and kind of figuring out what direction that goes in.
Yeah.
From here.
This next step is the grant.
Yeah.
Getting a grant to develop the code.
Yeah. I think a lot of that is now in the hands of Linn Falls Trust to take things forward on their end. I actually met with Kate Brown a couple of months ago and she told me about their plans. And it's pretty exciting. They're very much looking to have this actually materialize within 5 years. Like we could be standing down there in a park within 5 years.
Do you think that's realistic?
I do.
That's
She's pretty aggressive. She's got a whole laser focus. She's going on with that. And I think it's realistic. Our job as the city, I think, is to kind of make that as easy as possible, make sure we have the thoughtful zoning and everything going on down there, but yeah, everything seems to be coming together fairly well. So at this point. So we'll see where that takes us. A lot of these other things, the transportation funding, drinking water needs, those are kind of going to tie into the financial picture of the city and figuring that out.
Yeah, what fundamentally, right? The tackling the financial needs, stabilizing income, and I think you mentioned last meeting that there's looking at like a $9 million deficit over the next 5 years. Is that right?
Could be.
Could be. Okay. Stabilizing that feels really important, right? For some of these other projects to work. And so, as I was thinking about this over the last month, I kept returning to, if we could take on a project and provide guidance on something that feels like it's in our wheelhouse and feels actionable and feels like we can actually contribute and not spend a lot of time on something that's just, probably not something council can even do anything about for a while. That piece is the one that resonates with me the most. Is tackling and trying to figure out ways we can generate more revenue for the city without necessarily asking the people already paying to pay more. In so many cases we can't. And what ways can we try to generate more money?
Yeah, and it's been basically my entire life for the last 14 months or so. I kind of picked it up as my pet project late last year. We didn't yet have that deficit projection, but I was starting to get to the point where it was like, we have a really, really limiting financial situation here. Maybe I can but just turn over every couch cushion or something and figure something out. Well, it's proven to be a lot more complicated than that. And every time I think I've got a lead on something, there's something in the way of it, some sort of state law that prevents doing one thing or another. What it comes down to basically is we have the regular property tax revenue, which is 13% of every property tax dollar goes to us. That's the lowest fixed rate of any city in the area, $2.12 per 1,000. For instance, Oregon City's is $4.80. So we're making do with a lot less, and that doesn't help us that we don't have the same business base as a lot of those other cities do.
It's about rezoning.
Yes, exactly. So that's where the bulk of money comes from. And then you can do things like bonds. when we go towards projects and things, they have to be approved by voters, and then you can do operating levies. And those also have to be approved by voters, and they can only run for 5 years. They have to be renewed, so you do like an additional $1. Voters approve that, then basically you get $3.12 per thousand. So that's one way. Only other option is fees, and those go on utility bills. Council can unilaterally impose those, like we don't need approval from voters, but I mean, you tell me how long we're gonna last in office if we add a $50 per month charge to solve all of our financial problems. That'll be undone pretty quickly. So those are our tools that we have available.
You can also attract businesses, doing things to attract businesses, but that seems like a longer term solution to a problem that is coming a lot faster.
So I've looked at all the other little pocket change types of ideas that are out there. I don't think paid parking is going to raise much money. Not going to get us too far. Yeah, in fact, a lot of things
I think
that
parking
that
is
are
a
like,
great idea.
I mean, yeah, I think
Especially advocate for parking.
in certain areas, it would really help control the chaos of the parking and make it more orderly, but it's not gonna make us any revenue.
Well, it wouldn't start with paid. Only because obviously I lived in Berea. It took 15 years to get paid parking in downtown Salem, which is the second largest city, multiple task force. I'm surprised I have hair. I mean, seriously, because the businesses, when you have free parking, we're going to be out of business if you put paid parking in place, even though we had many examples that was just the opposite. Pasadena went from not being really great to being great once they put paid parking in, but there's a real methodology to it. And so, first you look at the demand that you have based on the free parking. And if you meet the 85% rule, you put in a time limit. And so the only cost for that is 2 hours. Then what happens is with 2 hours, you certainly have the revenue from vendors to that, but you have to have a place for the employees to go. So only because I'm somewhat familiar with this community, I am shocked that the residents behind Willamette aren't crazy with everybody parking in front of their houses.
They are.
Oh,
So why they block off parking in front of it.
So you have to put in, and again, you create an RP zone behind the main street. And in the RP zone, if you live there, then even in Salem, we finally raised it, it was $15, but you would have a permit that you would then give you the ability to park there, but other people could only park there a limited amount of time. So, I mean, to put the restricted parking in, you would get revenue just because people will overstay the 2 hours. Put the RP zone in, that takes care of that, and you're gonna have some revenue there, and you start getting people used to not parking by everybody. But you would have to find a place for the employees to park. Only because I've thought about this, you do have a lot of extra parking in some of those centers over on that, I don't know what the street is, by Burles Schwab. And so maybe they would be willing to let people pay a small fee or permit to park there. But I think parking is something that should be a futuristic type of thing because it's a mess.
It's I would have to be paid because I can tell you, it's like, because of Main Street, we tried to do 2 3-hour parking. And before we redid Main Street, it was 3-hour parking, but it was never enforced because the police said that they don't have staff to enforce it. So when we redid Main Street, we weren't allowed to put up signs that said 3-hour parking because they knew for sure it would be able to be policed. And so we couldn't even put up a sign. So the only way to resolve it would be the financial element of having actual paid parking to fund a police officer to actually ticket.
It would be, that would. open up on its own.
Not a code compliance person. 'Cause
Could be a code
We have
compliance
one, and
code.
she's already the busiest person in West London, what I call her. She
Yeah,
has something like.
I don't know
calls
if
a
you can
year.
fee that out. I mean, when you have the private, I mean, when you have a lot, you can get Diamond or somebody else to patrol it and issue the tickets. I'm not sure on the public highway if you could do that. But yeah, that goes down to the whole, what would it generate against another position, or is there a third party that does that?
But it is a total misnomer that the business owners do not understand that paid parking will actually increase the business, because what you have now is the employees sitting there parking for 8 hours a day, which means there's no parking spaces available for actual shoppers. So when you have the parking turning over, you have customers being able to come and park and actually come to your store.
Well, employees weren't allowed to park on the street just for that reason, but it did take enforcement
Yeah.
to get that, but you have to have an alternative for where they go. That's legal.
So funny enough, this may seem like a tangent or a rabbit hole, but this is actually a perfect example of what I keep encountering. There's one idea. Start to look at it. There's all those complexities that get in the way. It's really proven to be. If
So
we had the option of doing something, or we'd already be doing it.
So this parking idea is one idea that would tie into a game plan of ours of tackling the financial piece that Kevin brought up, and an idea that we could bring up. And so I think there are a lot of opportunities to come up with some out of the box, in the box things like this, if that's the route we want to take. What I'd like to do is see if anyone else has any thoughts on any of the other items that Kevin brought up. Is there anything else there that you think would be fun, interesting, for us as a committee to tackle outside of the financial piece?
This is kind of related, but, and I don't know. We actually got a grant at one point for when I was on Main Street for us to use the shuttle from the Adult Community Center on weekends in the summer to run people up from the park through Main Street, because we have no actual transportation. But you got lots of parking down at the park. And then run them up to the businesses so that they could go eat while in between games or softball or kayaking or whatever, right? That was the idea. Because transportation would solve some of the parking issues. We had a little mini bus that went around town, picked people up and brought them into business areas. You know, city years ago looked into the model that Forest Grove does, because Forest Grove is a small city too that has their own transportation. We have all these TriMet dollars that our employees pay, the city of Westland pay into TriMet to kind of not have any kind of transportation here. So I think revisiting that whole thing of getting like a test shuttle to kind of prove the idea, if people will pay $1, $2 for a little trip up the hill. That's an idea.
Okay.
Something that's come up. One thing, I really do like the idea of you guys brainstorming ideas for this, because it's been quite a process to work on myself. Kind of frustrating. But one thing we are going to take up this month, I guess at our second meeting, way back in 2015, when the voters of Oregon legalized marijuana, the council at the time held what I would call a glorified poll, an advisory vote.
We actually voted on the ballots.
And that was to make it so that you could not operate a dispensary within the city of Westland. Well, in the meantime, we've been missing out on about 40, 50 grand in tax sharing revenue from that every year. That's without even having any dispensaries in the city. If we had dispensaries, that could be as much as maybe 200,000 is the projection. So I think with the benefit of hindsight, we've seen that society did not collapse, or at least it did not collapse for that reason, of legalizing marijuana. And dispensaries are not exactly like prime hotspots. They're oftentimes the classiest joint on the block. No pun intended. So we're going to be discussing removing that prohibition, and just, it seems almost negligent to not take advantage of that revenue.
Yeah, I think it should go back to the voters again. Though. I don't know if it should be a council level decision.
It may.
Because if it goes back to the voters, that's what I would personally feel like we should. So we voted for it before, we should take it back to the voters.
We may, but it was an advisory notice and it wasn't binding. It was just what you.
No, it was a ballot.
Yeah, but it wasn't binding. It was weird. That's why I call it a glorified poll.
Well, yeah, I mean, it gave council direction on what the community thought, but yeah.
And I think in that context back then, you would understand.
And it was early, yeah,
Yeah.
everyone's played out, like, see how it does or not,
But I've been extremely surprised that every conversation I've had, literally, I've not heard anyone oppose it so far. If they do, I'm happy to hear it. But most of the responses have shocked me. Oh, great. Now I don't have to drive to Oregon City anymore. I wasn't expecting that, but okay. So that's one of many little pocket change matters that I've been looking into for we can start to solve this.
It would be interesting to know if Oregon City allows it, because Salem had a prohibition in downtown. No dispensaries, but outside of downtown you could. I'm trying to think in Oregon City.
Oregon City, they have downtown, they have like
Because I
five
know
in
they're up on
downtown.
Lama Avenue.
The problem is that I think when people think that it's gonna be like, that now when every other business is gonna be expensive.
We do have some restrictions, and I've seen a map that's not finalized that shows where it could go. There's only a small portion of Willamette Falls Drive where it would actually be okay. It's kind of like on the side where Lark is. Block area.
Proximity to school or something.
Yeah, proximity to schools and daycare. Up here, only like that end of this building is actually okay. The only part on top of the hill.
You mean City Hall?
Yeah, like
Oh.
Eric's office is basically the only part of anywhere on top of the hill that would be all right for that.
Sublet.
There's like a little area in Rosewood, and then there's nowhere in Bolton. Yeah, it's pretty restricted. Not be a free for all, that's for sure. We're not even totally sure if any would be allowed. In which case, it's just like, yeah, obviously take the $40,000.
Would it be more helpful for us as a group to, pick at some of these different ideas, or be a little, more what I would call tactics, or be focused more on overall strategy when it comes to finances? Thinking about Vision 43 a little more, or just higher level ideas and higher level work. Because we could probably come up with 100 different ideas, little ideas, if that's helpful for you, Kevin, that's great. Russell's texting me boat launch fees. There's just all these little things.
Oh, I did propose that. I did propose
Right.
parking fees for your boat trailers at Willamette Park. Because just like Head Park has, it's $5 a day to park your boat, you'd solve the issue of all of the soccer people parking in the boat trailer parking and having to go down the $20 whole tickets because they decide they want to park there for their soccer game instead of.
I love this stuff. If you guys like this stuff too,
Parks Board.
It just makes sense. It's busy enough. It'll rotate just like.
Yep, exactly. And you have to deal with this money, the illegal parkers.
Yeah.
Although I'm sure the $200, $12 ticket, the cops don't like to give that ticket though. They always go and walk over to the soccer fields and tell people, because I often have to call them because there's no place to park our boats. Because all these people park. Boat truck, trailer parking.
So I think these kind of conversations are gonna take up the bulk of what council will be working on this year, so. Every idea helps.
So do you think like our homework should be to kind of spend the month like brainstorming and come back with ideas?
Up to you guys.
I think so. One of the documents that Lynn sent out and is there available to you is just, I think it was Steve, maybe it was Kevin. It was like, I think actually it was Kevin. We should do a SWOT on West Linn. So, I just took all our notes from the last 5 months and put them into Chat GPT, and I had Chat GPT take, I gave it all the websites I wanted it to look at, and it pulled some other ones, and together we put together a SWOT analysis for West Linn that I think is a good starting point for us, especially if we're going to be talking about money and finances. I think this is a good place to go at the beginning here that help just get some ideas generated. Because yes, Christy, I think if that was you that said this, I think the best use of our time over the next 30 days is to do some research, do some work, lean on our strengths, whether it's research, discovery, analyzing, talking to other business owners, making phone calls, getting ideas from other cities. This document's for me like a little bit of a launching pad to help us do that so that we can come back with a plan of attack and kind of formulate a basic plan of attack next month on this particular topic. And maybe assign out some duties and some roles once we do that next month. Next month, it would be nice to have a plan of attack, a basic one, and then specifically assign people to different parts of that, rather than let's all read a document and let's all talk about it. That's fine, but if we want to actually get something done, it's going to be better if we say, hey, I'd like you do this, you tackle this, you look into this. And I think we can do that next month at the next meeting, if this is the route we want to go.
It's a start.
I love it.
We're gonna know what we
Mhm.
and have that conversation. Even have a baseline of it. What was your point on number 3? Clarify what? What it was.
Oh, it was a public advisory group, so we did that. That's
What do you think?
kind of what we're doing right now.
Center's gonna stay on here.
Rec center is something that we're trying to keep the momentum alive. My thought is that it would be wise to kind of have a plan for what we'd like to do. Keep it on ice until there's an economic upswing. I don't think there's much likelihood that we're gonna get it done while we're trending downward. But if we time it right and get an economic upswing, I think we could get support and funding, and all sorts of things. But it's not claiming to be anyone's biggest priority right now.
It should be a priority.
No.
Because rec centers notoriously lose money for stuff.
Although I did
It's a
have
draw.
one fun idea that I think you guys might appreciate, which is that the original plan called for a 2-story rec center. I was thinking it would be interesting if it were a 3-story rec center and the bottom floor were all commercial tenants, but community-based ones. So we're not having like law offices where people aren't going. They would be shops and things like that. And they would, their leases would sustain the cost of the operation of it long term. So I think that was the biggest issue we encountered. Obviously, it cost like, I think it got up to 70 million. It's the scary number we saw. But the bigger issue was the long-term
Long-term
operation costs.
Yeah.
So
This is a FTEs.
that is something that's obviously just not going to happen next year or the year after. One thing we have talked about is doing it in phases. So kind of a modular approach where phase 1 have like a concrete pad for food carts, and then a covered shelter area, maybe like one of those barn type things. And then phase 2 that becomes a real building. And then phase 3, that building is expanded. Over time, as we can actually put money into these things, it becomes a full rec center. So that's an idea I think we're going to explore a little bit, but also just not the first priority right now.
Well, the site has a beautiful view of Mount Hood. You could put housing on top.
There's another one. Yeah.
Or a nice restaurant.
Restrooms, yes.
Rooftop.
The rooftop bar.
Yeah.
So that was another whole controversy.
Yeah,
We talked about our rooftop bar.
the operations complex also has probably the best view of anything I've seen in the city. Just going down to that location. It's a great view of the river and you can kind of see from the side there. So I really wanted to make sure we had at least like a big meeting room in that building where we could actually hold some sort of event. It would seem a real waste to just have that be wasted on street sweepers and parking.
So Russell's been texting me a lot.
It's down to work.
Yeah. So, but to Christy's point, and maybe it would be a good idea to have, you know, I think I talked myself out of it a minute ago when I said maybe it's better not to say, hey, let's all think about it and talk again next week, maybe, or next month. Maybe it would be better for all of us to kind of take an approach, you know, based on, you know, this approach on the topic we're discussing here, and a month on it, and we're back in a month. And simultaneously think about the bigger picture. But then at least that way we have some good stuff to talk about and report on. You know, for example, it would be great, Russell, if you could spend the month coming up with a list of ideas related to water, the boat, you know, your recreational vehicles and some water usage and things like that, and bring some of those to the meeting next month. A list that you could share for 5 minutes or so. Do you think that would be doable?
Yeah, I can put those things I was texting you on a list.
I think, and there's some good stuff there. I think that would be great to bring it up at the meeting and talk through some of those things. You could even put a list in Word and send it to Linn before the meeting, and she can share it. So we've got it handy when you do share. And then go ahead.
Those are just, what did I did? 4 things that I came up with just as we were sitting here thinking.
Right.
Like just general, how can we generate some revenue with the natural resources that we have?
I think it's a strategy too. The way to think about it is those are all really good ideas. And I think the overarching strategy is there's a lot of water around us and we could really take advantage of that, maybe better. And so that could be your angle right now is how do we get more out of, you know, some of the recreational components of the city. That's a good approach. And then we were talking about parking earlier. And I think that there's an opportunity there to present some good ideas on paper for parking and maybe even do some type of an analysis, a revenue analysis of parking and some of these ideas. And so anyone that was chatting about parking, I think it was Shannon and Sheree, would either of you want to? This is the cool thing about the committee is you get to do things you want to do. Would either of you want to put something like that together and share it, send it to Linn and talk about it next meeting for 5 minutes or so?
Well, I think parking is an opportunity. However, I did hear that everything that was mentioned about parking has been looked at, not an option. I mean, again, it's interesting because I'm on this side of the table now where I've been on staff side of the table and on council side of the table. It's hard. I don't want to say disappointing, but it's hard when it feels like things, again, like I said, it took over 10 years and 3 times, and council approved paid parking twice, and we were unable to implement it. And we had the money to do it, but it was the chamber and the politics that stopped it. So I know sometimes it takes a long time and, you know, there's 5 steps forward and then there's like 10 steps backwards. I'm new to hearing this conversation, so I'm not sure. I certainly have a lot of knowledge in that, but if I'm hearing you say, Counselor, that it's been tried and I think Shannon, you were like,
Well,
we couldn't even put the signs up down. I mean,
yeah, I don't know about paid parking, because we were going that route of trying to control the parking without having to go to meters. I don't know that we've ever gotten to council.
Yeah, I think there's still opportunity to explore more of it.
So we can do
There's
sign.
really gonna be more of a need to have that discussion when the waterfront district starts to emerge. There's no way that doesn't become some sort of parking debacle.
Well, then maybe it's better to try and implement it before.
Yeah, that's what I think.
Well,
I
and it
think,
seems to me that there may be some need for a marketing campaign to businesses, like an informational campaign to, ahead of time, explain to them how this will benefit them. And really get businesses on board ahead of time as you are working towards that.
I think Main Street would be a good advocate for that, but I don't know.
Well, let's hear what
She might
Rebecca
be,
has
she
to
might be
say.
in disagreement with the whole thing.
Yeah.
Rebecca, what's the verdict?
is it worth someone's time, Rebecca, to put some thought and energy into parking over the next month downtown in preparation for, you know, future parking endeavors on 43, the waterfront, things like that?
Yeah, I mean, we do have a parking issue, although one of my board members says we have a walking issue, not a parking issue. And we have a number of business owners that, quite frankly, park right outside their own restaurants, and all of their staff do. And it really would be a mind change that would have to go on. And I do just want to say, in the TIF district, when that got set up, in the second round of items to spend money on as that money funnels in is a parking garage for Willamette. There's no reason why that couldn't be moved up if reasoning was given. So that is something that I would say would totally be worthwhile. You guys spending some time on looking at what that looks like and how maybe that could be implemented, because we do have to get employees and business owners off the street if we want if we want to have more people able to come in. So, there's definitely some worthwhile thought that could be done. It is more long term though. So,
Thanks, Rebecca.
Yeah.
Cherie, I think it's a great spend of your time. I do personally. I think that it could have a lot of legs.
for the pay stations too. If you didn't know that, because that's what we used to buy all of our pay stations in Salem this last summer. We used tax increment funds. So, and we were also able to pay for the first year of costs associated with that to give it time to get stabilized, because because we were going from a parking district to paid parking. And there is no such thing as free parking, just because somebody has to pay for all the upkeep and everything associated with it. And it's really hard because people say, oh, it's free. There's a cost. Every time somebody says it's free, there is no such thing as free parking. There really isn't. But if there's money for a parking garage or something in the future, that would be great. When I left in May, we were doing a big renovation of a parking garage. It's already in existence to make it more contemporary and be used more. So yeah, parking garages are great. 75,000 a space.
yeah. And I would just want to say too, if you guys are going to go down that road, make sure to include how the police department would be impacted by that and how to offset those costs, because the police department's really, they've got some real challenges right now already with funding. And so, with any of this comes enforcement, right? So that's just that other piece of it that you guys would need to include in your planning if you're going to work on some of them.
That's a good.
It would require another FTE. There's a 200K cost around back there.
Yeah, I'll have to go back and do my research,
I would
but I
make
could,
it a police officer because you don't, the enforcement's not the same. It's a different. It's a whole different set. They don't
Yeah.
hack, they don't do any of the things that a police officer does. It could be a lot more
and
affordable.
it could be a contract employee. So I think I have to go back in my research when I started to look into this when I was on Main Street. I think there was one example where the Main Street actually enforced it. So it was like contracted out to the Main Street as the enforcement
It-
person.
That would be in Albany, and there's a lot of I don't want to say issues that go along with that, but it's a very complicated system.
I
So
think it's hard for what Main Street to enforce against their members.
Yeah.
That's just kind of untenable.
Imagine Rebecca walking up and down getting a parking ticket.
Yeah,
Well, it'd be like a contract employee.
but it would still be, what are you doing? I mean, it would be a challenge, I think, for businesses to talk.
I think parks are probably another area that you were very much in favor of the Lambeth Park paid parking, and I don't think that's off the table either.
Cedar Oaks, probably.
It feels like as much as most of AI, it is a complete sham. The ability to actually, have a camera that says, oh, well, that space is paid for, but there's a car in it, so that's fine. That space has a car in it, but it's not paid for. And then it can take a picture of the license plate and issue a ticket. I don't know. Technology is actually a viable solution in this case. So
Mhm.
there's that.
Christy or Shannon or Lance, do any of you, I know Shannon, you were talking about transportation and shuttles. Any of you have something that tickles you a little bit that you're like, oh, I'd love to spend a little bit of time this month and bring some ideas back around the topic?
Yeah, I can try and see if I can find all my other research from when I did that grant. I did all the research on the shuttles.
Okay. That would be great, Shannon. That'd be awesome. Talk about shuttles and some transportation ideas.
Shannon, there's also, if I can just jump in for a second, there's a Main Street group in the Midwest. Well, actually two Main Street groups, and they work together to have a trolley system. And so that's been on our wish list for a long time. Something that would go from our waterfront to our Main Street and then over to Oregon City's waterfront and their Main Street and back and forth. So I'll try to get you that information.
Thanks, Rebecca. That's great.
Funny how we used to have all of that.
Yeah, there's a trolley line there.
And we ripped it all out.
Well, there's a real trolley. We used it all the time for some things around the hallways. It's a trolley, but obviously it's not on a rail. And they're fun.
Oh yeah, like the haunted trolley tour we took, right? Yeah, in Albany, they had a trolley that was really just a bus. It was a trolley, but it had a bus.
But
engine.
yes.
What happens when you bring Kevin to a Main Street conference?
I found
What-
those.
Lance and Christy, one of the things I mentioned that's come up is the friction that business owners feel to get a license, get permitting, just the time to get everything set up, and what ways to make it easier to open a business in West Linn, especially if you have real property, right? Like if you're buying a building or something. And I don't know all the ins and outs. Kevin, people have talked about it a little bit here and there, but I think there's an opportunity there to spend some time on what other communities might be doing or ways we can make the process cleaner. And maybe even brand that, as a community to business owners, that we make this process really clean and easy. That's one thing I can think of it'd be cool to have someone spend some time on.
I think enforcement of some business licenses too, and I don't know if this has always been like one of the back to parks, one of my pet peeves is that Energy Kayaks keeps a it, a little trailer thing parked in the park like all summer long? Are they paying a permit fee to keep their thing there all summer long? Do they have a Westland business license even? They should be required to have a business license and be paying if they're gonna leave their equipment there all summer long.
Seems fair.
Yeah. That's just an idea. If there's anything that that any of you guys can think of that might be fun to share.
Well, now,
Mm.
Shannon, you were on the committee, EDC, way back a few years ago when we had someone from finance come down and talk about the business licensing. Do you recall what some of the things she said about the problems and issues around business licensing and improving business licensing?
Well, we worked on like helping find the right software when they changed software, like we interviewed the companies for the software and to try to make it easier. We're sold the bill of goods because the software that we chose is terrible to use.
That is awful. You guys software for municipality.
So I don't know that it's made the process any easier because, well, it's mostly just figuring out, once you get there, it's fine. It's just figuring out where to go to renew it. It's always like, you know, we have to read a bunch of text to find the right link. But other than that, I think that was the only thing we really looked at was just the software stuff.
Not the process.
No, I thought you did evaluate the process.
Well, the process just through the software, like what information do they need to collect, and what kind of other information would be helpful for the EDC to know, like. We talked about having an exit survey where we could collect some extra data. If that ever happened. But because we needed to know certain things for the actual.
Well, I know there's some cities. There's some cities that do it really well. What we're talking about here that make the process really smooth. Use a particular type of software and just have a clear and clean way to onboard. And so maybe some research into those cities and just kind of seeing if there's anything there we can bring to the table. You know, we're not trying to solve any problems next month, but maybe just get some things rolling, some conversations rolling.
So I do kind of a huge time out with that because business licensing software is usually an addition to the finance software that the city uses. And so you can't just go out and buy like a separate business licensing and then have it work with our finance. You have to buy the whole package, and the whole package we use right now is Encode. And it, you know, it does audits. I mean, it handles all our finances. It is actually not the best, and there's problems with it in other ways. But we can't get a different software for business licensing outside our finance software.
Are we talking more about experience for a new business
Yes.
or licensing?
Yeah, we're
That's-
talking about friction that someone feels, the feeling of starting a business in West Linn.
Yeah, I think the biggest friction point that we've always talked about is that the license is for like July, like it's not from when you start the business, right? So if you start the business in June, you're gonna have to renew your license in July.
Yeah, and that's actually very typical. You find that all in most
Real estate licenses.
That's
we don't-
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's probably the biggest barrier. Like I always just tell businesses that are, you know, asking about a license, like on our Westland page, you know, and I'm like, just
Wait till July.
wait till. That's the easiest thing to do. You know, like I want you to get a business license, but it's okay to wait a month to get your license, kind of thing, so that you're not paying twice.
Yeah. And from a labor standpoint, a city labor standpoint, we can't have rolling business license. We don't have the staff or the capability of kind of having that process be an ongoing process. So it has to be, you know, and other jurisdictions I've worked for, that's the way it is. It's always, you know, June to June, and other, you know, sometimes jurisdictions say if you apply in May, they'll apply it to the next year. Those things are policy decisions, but for the most part, you're not gonna get a different software and you're not really gonna get, you're not gonna get different months. You're gonna have to just buy for the fiscal year.
I think the other friction, at least for home-based businesses, I think a lot of people don't know they need the license for their home-based business.
Yeah.
So getting the word out about that, but the friction point comes with, if you do a home-based business license, it triggers a planning review, which is an extra cost.
No, there's no cost for home occupancy.
Really?
No.
But there was an extra, because planning has to.
No, we do, no, planning does review it. When a business applies, we review all business licenses to determine if you're if you have the right, you're in the right zoning. But there's no fee for
Okay,
home.
I thought there was an extra fee, like $100 or something for the planning review.
Not that planning gets. I would say our planning department does not get any home occupancy.
Okay.
So.
Because I just remember that being a complaint.
I will point out that 40% of the 47% of business licenses are home-based businesses.
I'm very interested in that. That is an opportunity
And I
on
agree.
some
And
level. I mean,
Yeah.
as soon as you said, because I wrote down 40%, but if it's 47%, that's
yes,
even more amazing. I know of where I live, the lady makes cakes, from her bonus room. I mean, I see that as an opportunity because most of them at some point would need another space.
right,
And
exactly.
so, you have McDonald's on 43 that's boarded up, and that's on my list to find out what are the code violations for boarded up anything, because there's multiple things in my neighborhood that are boarded up, and that is a real negative message. Nothing should ever be boarded up.
Right.
But how long has that McDonald's been sitting there?
We
Could
could
we have had a?
Oh,
sorry.
Sorry about
McDonald's had a holiday market there.
Yeah,
Could we have
but I
something like
agree
the
with you that-
Portland Mercado there? Some type of entertainment. It's sitting there boarded up. But
It's a multi sandwich.
But-
It's got an active permit in it. Is it?
So first, I will say, I totally agree with you, and that is something that we do want to actually kind of start doing some thoughts around home-based businesses, because we could provide pop-up space for them, not at
Well,
not
like
at
the Wednesday
McDonald's.
market, just go
but-
down Wednesday market and say, hey, who are you? Who are you? Who
Yeah.
are you? Would you like a bigger space?
And connecting home-based businesses with empty businesses is a program that other jurisdictions do that we could consider doing in West Linn. McDonald's had a lock on that property and would not allow anybody to use it, and now they have sold it to Katie Car Wash, and it's going to become a car wash. I mean, that's
All
what
the whistles and bangs like the one.
Well, maybe not as light,
No, not as.
not as
I
exciting.
should say,
Pretty mellow.
They're-
That's not all the,
I shouldn't say that it's waiting. It's an active permit that the planning commission will make.
That's a
decision.
tragedy.
Yes.
So many levels
So-
to take that location for.
Here's the thing about McDonald's, when they vacate the space that they've owned in terms of that sale, or that whoever is moving into it, leasing it from them or purchasing it from them, cannot build anything that serves food in any way, even a vending.
For 20 years.
For 20 years. So right off the bat, that takes a whole bunch of uses of that property off the table.
So basically never let McDonald's into
Exactly.
That's the way I feel after learning about that. So for 20 years, the uses of that particular space are extremely limited, but as Chris would have said if he were here, as long as you have the current zoning that we have along 43, you're just gonna get caddy car washes. You're not gonna get better things. So that kind of illustrates the importance of getting through the 43 plan.
Mhm.
Well,
Right, that's-
Russell's idea, he texted me that the city could own a car wash as a revenue source.
Car washes are a sore subject, right?
I don't want to leave. So Lance or Chris, you don't have to pick anything, but is there anything you want to report back on in next month that we've talked about, or you got your own idea? And no ideas are bad.
I want to reserve the right to change my idea if I come up with something better over
Yeah,
the month.
for sure.
I kind of am thinking that I'd like to look into, if you're maybe looking at, I know you were interested in possibly looking at the business licenses and making it easier for new businesses. I would also like to look at like maybe why businesses fail or what makes it difficult to run a business here. And are there ways that we could make things easier for the businesses that are here so that we have a strong business base?
I think that's great.
Because it seems like we are, we're losing restaurants left and right. And when you lose businesses, it makes other businesses wary of.
Confidence.
I think that's a great one.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you.
So, yeah, you can go with the existing and I'll go with.
And you'll go with new.
Okay.
Newer businesses, well, I'll talk about the existing as well, just to find out what their experience was like and, is there anything that you'd like to see expedited or changed or and bring it back to the city and you guys and see if we can make any changes.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
I wanted to add, I know we're gonna wrap up here in a sec. The overall concept of like fixing the city's financial situation, that is going to officially get a branding name in the next couple weeks or month. Long time ago, I came up with the concept of calling it Community Enhancement Fund, which is a very nice political term.
In the future.
Yes, it's to make it sound, nice, not scary. Just so you have something to refer to.
Nice.
Yeah, community enhancement is what started falling.
Nice.
Any items of interest from any of the EDC members? Anything you would like to share today? Any members? Anything from staff, from Lynn, or anything else, Kevin? I had one quick question. So last week, Steve isn't here, but I think he was going to find out, can we have like an ad hoc connection outside of this meeting where a couple people get together? We build like subcommittees within this meeting. Do you remember that question?
So in my experience in the past, when we try, and I think it's actually in the community advisory handbook.
I totally read that. It is.
Yeah, the city council is the one that creates subcommittees. But there's nothing to stop a couple people to get together to work on an issue to bring it forward. But you can't create your own subcommittee.
Right. Yeah, and we can do things. We just have to make them public, and there's a process we have to follow.
Yes, yeah. You have to ask the city council to create.
But like 3 people could meet without a problem.
Yeah.
For coffee or something.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It just can't be 4.
Okay. All right, great. And then the 2 SWOT analyses that I created and you all have copies of, I'd love for any feedback and thoughts. I'd like for us as a committee to formalize them and give them to the council as part of their requirement, for us this year. And so I'll ask for thoughts next month on these, and maybe we could adopt something.
Feels good.
Okay, if there's nothing else, then we adjourn at 7:21 p.m. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you all.
How do you spell your